There have been some significant shifts that you should be aware of, the most significant of which is that if you truly make MGTOW, the relationship is already over before it even begins. MGTOW is about putting yourself first, which is the exact opposite of what women want in any significant relationship. You should be aware of these shifts. My personal code is to never get married and to never cohabitate with another person. I will never get married, regardless of whether or not the laws change, because I enjoy the single life. I have never lived in close quarters with a woman, but I came up with the rule that you are not allowed to do so after discovering that women have twisted the laws in such a way as to make it possible for cohabitation to serve as an additional route for stealing the rights and property of men. I've also come to the conclusion that living with a woman inevitably leads to servitude and simping because you become financially dependent on her and are trapped in whatever lease you've signed with her. Without the freedom and options that MGTOW provides, this code acts as a natural filter for relationships. Cohabitating with a woman is a surefire way to end up in a relationship with a simp. Because of this and the fact that I will not budge from my uncompromising stance on the issue, any relationship is doomed to fail as soon as the honeymoon phase is over because it is the exact opposite of what hypergami requires. If you set your boundaries and behaviors early on, the smarter ones will play by your rules for as long as they can until their hypergamous instincts demand that they push against your boundaries. This signals that the end of the relationship is drawing near. Women, for the most part, decide when the honeymoon phase of a relationship comes to an end, and make an effort to change your behavior. If you know who you are, if you walk the path to self-mastery, and if you determine what you want in life, why you want it, and how you're going to get there, then anything that tries to push against your boundaries will be wasting its time getting into a relationship. Even after finding MGTOW, will take you on a one-way ride to the plantation if you don't strive for self-mastery and if you can't say no to a woman. The glass ceiling that MGTOW places on relationships is different for each type of relationship, including friends with benefits and casual hookups. Short-term relationships are typically with women who have a higher sexual marketplace value because of their attractiveness. This is because the boundaries and expectations were established at the beginning of the relationship. Most people will remain on call even if they get boyfriends. Typically, the relationships that last the longest are the ones in which the infidelity is tolerated. They are more at ease, making more demands more frequently and quickly, and if you have established your boundaries and formed your code, she will crash against it like the wall that is waiting for her after her trip if you have done so. On the COT carousel, long-term relationships typically work with the mid-tier women who are counting on cohabitation to be their way of tying you down. These women hope that the longer you are together, the more likely you are to stay with them. The marriage rates for younger couples are falling like a thought on Saturday night, but the cohabitation rates aren't falling as fast as the marriage rates are. I know plenty of guys who live with their girlfriends or fiancés but have not married. The marriage rates for younger couples are falling like a thought on Saturday night. Getting into a relationship creates many potential risks that you must take into consideration, and there is no way to avoid this situation with a 100% success rate. This is because women have adapted and learned that they can still lock down men through a shared living space. Consequently, you will be responsible for conducting your own personal cost-benefit analysis, the most obvious and significant of which is pregnancy. I don't eat raw dog, I bring my own condoms, I check it and flush it every time, and you can bet your bottom dollar that I watch it circle the drain. Is this a guarantee? No, but I think I do enough here. The thing that worries me the most, especially in our community, is when people make false accusations. This is the one that causes the most harm to the relationships that exist between the sexes. I store all of my text messages on external hard drives with timestamps and dates, but even this isn't enough to protect them. Because there have been numerous instances in which the authorities have flatly refused to acknowledge that as evidence, doing so is essentially equivalent to handing a woman a loaded gun and hoping that she doesn't use it. If a woman displays obvious red flags, such as crazy eyes, you should avoid her, but if the woman hides her flags, it is ultimately up to you to decide whether or not she is a false accuser, because they will all act rashly and in their own best interest. There is no real strategy for determining which woman is a false accuser because all of the women will act in their own best interest. The most common type is studs. I no longer engage in one-night stands, and when I do, I insist that my partners provide me with an up-to-date blood test. However, even if you pass a test and always use condoms, there is a possibility that you could contract an STD if your partner cheats on you. Every woman will commit adultery at some point, either with you or on you. Every girl you meet who claims to be single has a secret partner who is unaware of her activities. Regardless of whether you have a code of putting yourself first, her hypergamous instincts will naturally cause her to look elsewhere, and when she does, her attitude will change drastically. This should serve as an indication that you should move on from the situation. If you know that she is taken and you decide to pursue a relationship with her anyway, that is a decision that each man is responsible for making on his own moral compass. Given all of these extremely negative aspects, what are the positive aspects of being in a relationship after leaving MGTOW? But I've also noticed that there are a lot of guys in this community who want to interact with women, but they have an all-or-nothing mentality about it. I've also noticed that there are a lot of guys in this community who want to interact. If it's that black and white for you, then this piece of advice probably isn't for you if you need the viewpoint of an MGTOW monk. Either they get together with a woman, start a family, and start simping for her, or they can't do anything with her at home. The discovery of MGTOW and learning about MGTOW definitely affected my libido. It was difficult to even find the desire because all I could see were the negatives as I sorted myself out. I can only offer you the perspective of a MGTOW bachelor. I realized that I could get exactly what I wanted from them. I could concentrate on my path and continue to be productive, and I could reward myself whenever I wanted to. They are distractions, that's all they are, if you want a family, a wife, or if you want to be the farmer. I came to the realization that I could get exactly what I wanted from them. You are out of luck for the foreseeable future, but if you just want to come and go, no pun intended, then you might find it easier to navigate if you desire to do so. My viewpoint has also undergone a significant shift in the past few months. I'm still trying to wrap my head around the significance of it all, but I've finally reconciled myself to the notion that if I'd had my sex doll before I started seeing the girl I'm seeing right now, I probably would have continued to play with just the doll. After going through MGTOW, every relationship ends, and it will and must for the sake of my sovereignty. This is something that I was not prepared for in the slightest, but I will go into more detail about it in a more extensive retrospective on modern dating. Because at the end of the day, everything else, including women, is just a distraction on the side of the road that is your path to self-mastery. It is possible to enjoy the ride and to live in the moment.